Welcome the anointed ones. They thought they could steal from destiny itself and get away with it. That's right. Imagine someone reaching into your life, snatching what was rightfully yours and smiling like it's just another Tuesday. But here's the shocking truth. 78% of financial fraud and inheritance theft cases collapse within the first year when insiders start talking. In other words, what seems buried forever has a way of clawing its way back to the surface, and often with witnesses you never expected. Now picture this. The very people who laughed, schemed, and counted your inheritance as theirs are waking up at 3 a.m., sweating, scrolling through messages, and wondering, who's going to expose us next? That's the sound of karma tapping politely on their doors, with a spotlight so bright it blinds them from their own lies. And here's the twist. You're not just watching this unfold. You're at the center of it. Every lie they planted, every secret they thought was safe, is now unraveling in real time. The whistleblower is not just a hero. They're the domino that triggers the collapse of an empire built on your stolen inheritance. So buckle up, because what they stole wasn't just money, it was your legacy. And now the very people who tried to play gods over your life are about to learn a lesson in cosmic comedy. The universe never forgets, it only takes its time. And yes, sometimes it laughs at them while doing it. This is not a story of revenge. This is a story of inevitable justice, explosive revelations, and the unstoppable return of what's rightfully yours. Number 1, their panic is your revelation. Their panic is not random. It's a signal of truth surfacing. When people steal, manipulate, or take what isn't theirs, they carry a constant, invisible weight. It doesn't matter how many walls they build, how many lies they tell, or how many people they bribe to keep the secret. Guilt has a way of breaking through. And now, as the whistleblower comes forward, exposing the stolen inheritance, that invisible weight becomes visible. Every anxious call they make, every sleepless night, every rushed explanation is a symptom of the pressure mounting on them. Stress isn't just stress in this case, it's the echo of the crime catching up to them. They are not just worried about losing face. They are terrified of losing control over the web of deception they created. Their panic reveals more than fear. It exposes cracks in their armor that they assumed were unbreakable. Their stress is also a reflection of power shifting. They once held the advantage because they controlled information, because they could manipulate outcomes behind the scenes. But when the truth starts coming out, suddenly that power evaporates. What they thought was untouchable is no longer untouchable. The panic you see is proof that the tables have turned. It's proof that their schemes are unraveling in real time. It's a reaction that confirms your position, your rights, and your legitimacy. They are stressed because they see, maybe for the first time, that they aren't the ones dictating the outcome anymore. That's the essence of this moment. Their panic isn't just emotional, it's factual. The exposure of your inheritance triggers a series of events they cannot control, and their fear is proof that the truth is unstoppable. The irony is brutal. They thought their deception could last forever. They assumed their stolen advantage was permanent. And now, their panic is both evidence and entertainment. It shows you exactly how fragile their position was all along. They are losing, and they know it. Their stress is the universe's way of confirming that justice isn't coming. It's already happening. Every frantic move, every hurried lie, every sleepless hour only accelerates the reckoning. Their panic is not just an emotional reaction, it's a confirmation that what belongs to you is returning. Their fear proves that the stolen cannot stay stolen, and that the moment of truth is not only near, it is unavoidable. Number 2. Secrets leak faster than lies. Travel. Secrets never stay buried, and lies never last forever. What they thought was hidden, the theft of your inheritance, the manipulation, the falsified records, was never as invisible as they believed. Every action they took left a trail, whether in emails, bank transfers, casual conversations, or careless mistakes. These are the breadcrumbs that lead straight back to them, and a whistleblower is the one finally following the trail with eyes wide open. The exposure isn't a random act of courage. It's the inevitable consequence of a system built on deception. The truth has a way of finding someone who will speak it, and the more they tried to silence everything, the louder it becomes. What they considered their advantage, their secret leverage, is now their biggest weakness. Every hidden transaction, every attempt to manipulate outcomes, every lie told to cover a lie, now exists in plain sight for someone willing to confront it. The whistleblower is not creating the problem, they're simply revealing it. What's astonishing is that the documents, the recordings, the evidence, the small inconsistencies they ignored, they all start speaking louder than any denial. Even the people who were too scared or too greedy to act before are suddenly witnesses to the truth. The secrecy they relied on collapses as soon as someone refuses to stay silent. The impact is both immediate and psychological. They are being watched, analyzed, and exposed in ways they never considered. Their comfort zones are shattered, and the stress of exposure grows because the truth is objective. It cannot be negotiated, ignored, or hidden indefinitely. Every attempt to cover up the theft only adds to the proof. Every panic-driven move they make becomes part of the pattern that exposes them further. The whistleblower doesn't just reveal the crime, they illuminate the system of lies, the network of complicity, and the intricate ways they tried to manipulate reality. At the core, this is a moment of reckoning. The stolen inheritance was more than just money. It was a symbol of control, dominance, and assumed impunity. The exposure forces them to confront not only their actions but the inevitability of consequences. Secrets don't leak because people are weak. They leak because truth is relentless. And in this case, the truth has a voice, a witness, and a timing that no amount of scheming can resist. Their carefully constructed illusion is unraveling, and the whistleblower is simply the spark. The real fire is the inevitability of the truth taking its place, and nothing they do now can stop it. Number 3. Their greed was their blindfold. Their greed was the very thing that blinded them. They assumed that taking what wasn't theirs could be done without consequences, that wealth and influence could shield them from the natural outcome of stealing from someone else's life. They convinced themselves that clever planning, connections, and intimidation were enough to secure what they wanted. But greed is never quiet. It grows, it consumes, and it clouds judgment. Every decision they made while chasing what wasn't theirs was guided by a distorted sense of entitlement. They ignored the risks, underestimated the people around them, and convinced themselves that they were untouchable. That overconfidence, born from selfish desire, is exactly what has led to their downfall. The irony is brutal. The very hunger that drove them to take from you is now the source of their fear. They built their schemes thinking they were in control, but control is an illusion when your actions are rooted in selfishness and disregard for the truth. Greed doesn't just push people to steal, it makes them careless, arrogant, and predictable. Every corner cut, every false signature, every attempt to manipulate witnesses became a trail leading straight to them. They thought the shadows protected them, but the more they tried to hide, the more obvious the patterns became. Their panic now is a direct result of the same desire that once made them bold. Greed also distorts perspective. They measured success by accumulation rather than justice, by advantage rather than fairness. That distortion made them blind to warning signs, blind to the inevitability of exposure. They assumed their theft could exist without consequences because their vision was clouded by the immediate reward. Every choice was made to benefit themselves at the expense of what was right, and every selfish move has now amplified the consequences they face. What they thought was clever manipulation is now unmistakable evidence, and their stress is proof that they can see it, even if it's too late to stop it. Ultimately, their greed was never just a moral failing. It was a strategic weakness. It dictated their moves, created predictable patterns, and ensured that someone paying attention would notice. It guaranteed exposure. What they assumed was security became their vulnerability. The irony is sharp. Their desire to possess what wasn't theirs is exactly what is forcing them to watch, powerless, as it comes back to the person they tried to steal from. Greed promised them wealth and control, but it delivered anxiety, fear, and eventual defeat. Their panic is not just emotional, it's the undeniable proof that desire without integrity always backfires. Number 4. The whistleblower is the trigger, not the hero. The whistleblower is not the hero. They are the trigger. What they do is important, but it is only the starting point of a process that was already inevitable. Justice has its own momentum, and no amount of manipulation, intimidation, or bribery can stop it once the truth begins to surface. The whistleblower's courage or actions are merely the spark that lights a fire already waiting to burn. Every lie, every stolen asset, every attempt to cover up the theft has been recorded in the fabric of reality, and when the spark hits, the chain reaction is unstoppable. What follows the whistleblower's revelation is not chaos. It is destiny asserting itself. The people who tried to manipulate, steal, and deceive find themselves powerless against a force that does not negotiate. Their schemes crumble not because of a single person's bravery, but because the timing, the circumstances, and the evidence were always aligned to restore what was taken. The whistleblower may ignite the moment, but the fire is built on truth, pattern, and consequence. The stolen inheritance, the legacy, and the rights that were denied to you were never gone. They were simply waiting for the universe to correct itself. This moment exposes the illusion of control that the wrongdoers relied on. They acted as if their actions were permanent and untouchable, as if fear or influence could erase wrongdoing. Now they see that no human intervention can block the flow of inevitable justice. The whistleblower triggers exposure, but the collapse of their schemes is written in the sequence of reality itself. The truth acts like gravity. It cannot be avoided, and everything false eventually falls under its weight. The key lesson is clear. The focus should never be on the individual exposing the crime, but on the unstoppable unfolding of justice. The whistleblower is vital, but they are not the source of power. The force behind the exposure is far greater. What they reveal is only the first sign that the system of lies, manipulation, and theft cannot hold. Once the spark ignites, the momentum of truth takes over, and what was stolen will return. Fear, deceit, and bribes are powerless against it. Destiny, timing, and inevitability carry the real weight, and the whistleblower is simply the instrument that sets it all in motion. The fire has begun, and nothing can extinguish it. Number 5. Every document, every transaction is an echo of their guilt. Every document, every transaction, every carefully hidden note they thought no one would ever see, now speaks louder than their words. The spreadsheets, accounts, forged signatures, and altered records are not just evidence. They are echoes of their guilt that refuse to stay silent. They carry the story of every injustice, every manipulation, every stolen piece of what was rightfully yours. No amount of fear, bribery, or intimidation can erase these traces. What they considered secure and invisible now has a voice of its own, exposing the full scope of what they tried to hide. Each piece of evidence is a mirror reflecting their true actions. The patterns they thought were clever, the inconsistencies they ignored, and the shortcuts they took are all proof that their control was never absolute. Every entry in a ledger, every signed document, every suspicious transfer resonates with the truth. Even the smallest detail, once overlooked, becomes a clue in the bigger picture. The weight of their guilt is not just moral, it is practical. It affects their decisions, their sleep, and their ability to manipulate the narrative any longer. The brilliance of this is in the inevitability. Paper trails and digital records do not lie, and no one can rewrite history completely. The moment someone decides to look closely, the whistleblower, the investigators, or even a keen observer, these echoes of guilt amplify and align, revealing the full extent of the theft and manipulation. Every attempt they made to cover up the truth only adds to the clarity. Their panic, their defensive moves, and their excuses now all serve as confirmation of what these documents already show. Ultimately, this is why their stolen advantage is collapsing. What they tried to bury is not buried at all. The evidence doesn't just tell the story, it demands recognition. Each transaction and signature acts as a persistent reminder that wrongdoing leaves a mark. The more they struggle to hide, the louder the echoes become. Their guilt is no longer private. It is tangible, undeniable, and resonating for all to see. The documents are not just proof. They are the voice of justice itself, and they are relentless in reclaiming what belongs to you. Number 6. Their networks are collapsing silently. Their networks are collapsing quietly, but the impact is undeniable. The people who once enabled them, cheered their schemes, or turned a blind eye to the theft are now feeling tremors they can't ignore. Fear is creeping into every corner of their alliances, and loyalty that was conditional or shallow is evaporating fast. The connections they relied on to maintain control, protect themselves, or cover their tracks are weakening under the weight of inevitable exposure. What was once a fortress built on complicity is now cracking from the inside. Every ally who stayed for convenience, profit, or fear of missing out is now questioning their position. Those relationships that seemed solid are shifting because the cost of association is suddenly higher than any benefit they thought they were gaining. People begin to distance themselves, subtly at first, then openly. Opportunistic alliances fracture, silence turns into whispers, and what was once a supportive network becomes a series of isolated individuals trying to save themselves. The fear of being implicated or dragged into the fallout overrides any sense of loyalty they might have had. This collapse is not just social, it's strategic. Their ability to manipulate, intimidate, or control outcomes relied on the strength and coordination of their network. Now, with cracks appearing and allies pulling back, their power diminishes rapidly. Every misstep becomes more visible, every lie more vulnerable to exposure. What they once believed was protection now exposes them further, amplifying the consequences of their actions. The domino effect of this collapse is relentless. One person withdraws, another hesitates, another decides to speak out, and the chain reaction accelerates. The pressure is not just external, it's karmic. The universe has a way of balancing actions, and the very networks they built to secure their advantage are now turning against them. What was once a shield has become a mirror, reflecting their failure and magnifying their vulnerability. In the end, the collapse of their networks is proof that no system built on deceit and greed can hold. Allies will betray, supporters will vanish, and opportunists will exploit the weakening structure. The silence in which it happens makes it even more powerful, because while they scramble to maintain control, the unraveling occurs in plain sight, unstoppable and merciless. The network that once bolstered their theft now ensures their exposure, leaving them isolated, fearful, and powerless. Number 7. Anxiety is their currency now. Anxiety has become their new currency, and it's one they never planned to spend so recklessly. Every choice they made to steal what wasn't theirs, every shortcut they took to gain temporary advantage came at the cost of their own peace of mind. They thought control and manipulation would secure their success, but what they didn't realize is that the weight of wrongdoing compounds over time. Now, with exposure inevitable and a whistleblower revealing the truth, the cost has arrived in full force. Every lie they built, every scheme they orchestrated, is like a debt they can't pay, and the interest is anxiety that refuses to stop accruing. This anxiety doesn't stay hidden. It shows up in every meeting they attend, in every conversation they try to dominate, in every decision they make under pressure. The stolen inheritance is no longer a trophy or an advantage. It has become a shadow that follows them relentlessly. Each step they take is haunted by the fear of being caught, questioned, or publicly exposed. The power they assumed they had is evaporating, replaced by constant worry, second-guessing, and sleepless nights. Their minds, once confident in their schemes, are now consumed by the very actions they thought would bring them security. The irony is unavoidable. What they valued above all, temporary gain, stolen advantage, and control over your life, is exactly what is destroying them from within. Anxiety becomes their dominant currency because it dictates every reaction, every choice, and every interaction. It's a cost they cannot transfer, escape, or hide. The market of their lives has crashed, and the only thing they are trading now is stress and fear. Even attempts to regain control only accelerate the pressure. Every move to cover up, justify, or distract only reinforces the weight of what they have done. The stolen inheritance, once a symbol of power, now functions as a reminder of vulnerability, guilt, and inevitable exposure. In the end, they realize that no advantage is worth the constant price of anxiety, and the very thing they sought to claim is the very thing that controls them now. Every waking moment is a transaction in fear, and it is a currency that can never be spent wisely. Number 8. The universe does not forget a stolen birthright. The universe has a memory that no one can erase, and it does not forget what is rightfully yours. A stolen birthright, whether it's wealth, influence, or legacy, carries an invisible pull toward its true owner. It doesn't matter how sophisticated the theft was, how carefully they covered their tracks, or how many lies and manipulations they layered on top. Every attempt to divert, hide, or claim what was never theirs only delays the inevitable return. Resistance is meaningless because the force that governs balance and justice operates independently of human schemes. What they took carries a natural alignment to you. Birthrights are not just material. They are extensions of destiny, identity, and purpose. When someone tries to intercept them, they create an imbalance that the universe corrects. The stolen inheritance, the legacy they tried to claim, cannot be owned by those who have no claim. It is magnetically drawn back to the one it belongs to, like a compass needle returning north, like water finding its level. Every action they take to hold it, every strategy they implement to avoid accountability, only triggers the process faster. The consequences of attempting to resist this natural correction are unavoidable. They may delay the exposure, manipulate appearances, or intimidate others, but these measures are temporary. The universe does not operate on temporary measures. It responds to essence, to rightful claim, and to truth. The stolen birthright generates a gravitational pull that is stronger than any fear, bribery, or deception. They may feel in control for a while, but the alignment toward restoration is constant, inevitable, and unstoppable. This principle is not abstract, it is observable. History is full of cases where people tried to hijack what was not theirs, only to see it returned in ways that were undeniable, public, and irreversible. Attempts to resist the rightful flow of destiny only create friction, stress, and eventual collapse. The universe's correction does not need witnesses, lawyers, or enforcers. It simply unfolds. What was stolen will find its way home because the system of existence is built to restore balance. Resistance may feel powerful in the moment, but in the grand scheme, it is meaningless. Birthrights, power, and legacy belong where they were always meant to reside, and no human effort can permanently change that. Number 9. Their attempts to distract will fail spectacularly. Their attempts to distract will fail because the truth moves faster than any lie they can tell. Every false narrative they create, every attempt to gaslight witnesses or intimidate those who know the truth, is already cracking under its own weight. They think they can control perception, rewrite history, or manipulate outcomes, but the momentum of what is real cannot be outrun. Diversions that once seemed effective are now meaningless, powerless against the unfolding exposure of what was stolen. Every attempt to redirect attention only highlights their fear and deepens the evidence of their guilt. What they don't realize is that distraction is temporary, but truth is relentless. Lies can only survive in isolation, and the moment one detail is revealed, the entire structure begins to collapse. Every fabricated story, every attempt to mislead others, becomes a self-evident sign of desperation. Instead of shielding them, these tactics accelerate the reckoning. The more they push, the more visible their panic and weakness become. Their own attempts to manipulate the narrative betray them at every turn. The irony is sharp. The strategies they relied on to maintain power are now the instruments of their exposure. Gaslighting, intimidation, and false narratives were supposed to suppress questions, silence witnesses, and control outcomes. But all they do now is draw attention to the cracks. Every move to distract, delay, or confuse observers only magnifies the truth, making the collapse even more spectacular. Their control was never real. It was an illusion that now unravels in plain sight. In the end, the failure of their distractions proves the unstoppable nature of exposure. The truth is not a matter of perception, it is a force that cannot be avoided, bribed, or silenced. Every diversion, every manipulative tactic, every desperate attempt to rewrite history is powerless against the inevitable. The stolen inheritance, the hidden evidence, and the web of lies they created will come to light, and nothing they do can prevent it. Their distractions were never a shield. They were a signal of their fear and a confirmation that justice is already in motion. The momentum of truth cannot be outrun, and their failure to contain it is both inevitable and spectacular. Number 10. The exposure redefines your authority. The exposure of what was stolen does more than return what is yours. It redefines your authority in ways that no one can ignore. This moment is not merely about restitution. It's a statement on a much larger scale. It proves that you were always meant to be in the position you occupy, that your rights, your inheritance, and your legacy were never in question in the eyes of destiny itself. What others tried to take from you, manipulate, or hide only highlights your rightful claim. The act of revealing their deception amplifies your credibility, your influence, and your standing in ways that money or status alone never could. When the truth comes out, it has a ripple effect. People around you, those who doubted, those who underestimated, and even those who tried to block your path, are forced to acknowledge that you were never meant to be sidelined. The revelation exposes not just the theft, but also the audacity of those who believed they could override what was destined for you. This is the moment when your authority transforms from theoretical or assumed to undeniable and visible. Your position is validated by facts, by evidence, and by the undeniable reality that you endured what others could not, and you persisted where others failed. The impact extends beyond personal gain. It reshapes how people perceive your judgment, your strength, and your ability to rise above manipulation and chaos. Authority is often measured by resilience and the ability to command respect, and nothing commands respect like being vindicated publicly after being wronged. As the exposure unfolds, it becomes clear that your rise was never in question. It was simply delayed by the interference of those who underestimated the inevitability of justice. In real time, the world witnesses your vindication, and that observation alone magnifies your influence. Every action, every step, and every decision they took to suppress you now serves as evidence of your rightful position. The revelation is a cosmic affirmation. You were always meant to lead, always meant to inherit, and always meant to rise above the chaos orchestrated by others. Your authority is no longer just personal. It becomes a public and unchallengeable truth. Number 11. Guilt makes them predictable. Guilt changes people in ways that are impossible to hide. The very actions they take to cover up their theft, to manipulate outcomes, or to intimidate others now betray them because guilt dictates behavior in predictable patterns. Every decision becomes reactive rather than proactive. Every move calculated to minimize exposure rather than to maintain control. Panic seeps into their logic, clouding judgment and making them more transparent than they ever imagined. You don't need to guess what they'll do next. Their stress and fear lay it out clearly for anyone paying attention. Their missteps are no longer random. They overcompensate, make hasty decisions, contradict themselves, and leave trails that reveal more than their words ever could. Their attempts to salvage control backfire, and every lie they try to spin only tightens the noose. Patterns emerge naturally. They repeat the same defensive tactics, overreact to minor challenges, and lash out at anyone who threatens to expose them further. These are not clever maneuvers. They are the manifestations of guilt. Observing them closely becomes a study in inevitability, because guilt, once ignited, always seeks relief, and it rarely chooses wisely. The beauty of this is that their unraveling is entirely self-driven. You don't need to intervene or force the truth. They are dismantling their own credibility and exposing their own weaknesses. Every miscalculation, every impulsive attempt to intimidate or redirect attention becomes evidence of the fragility of their position. The panic that guilt produces is consistent and measurable, giving you the opportunity to anticipate, leverage, and simply watch as their facade collapses. Being the silent audience to their downfall is powerful, because it puts you in a position of control without needing to act. You see clearly what they cannot. They see the consequences closing in, but they can't escape the patterns their guilt creates. Every move, every word, every defensive reaction is a predictable echo of the crime they committed. Their anxiety, their overcompensation, and their fear are all signals that reveal the truth. In the end, guilt strips them of strategy, leaving only instinct and desperation, and their unraveling becomes a story you witness unfold in real time without interference. Their predictability is your advantage, and their collapse is already underway. Number 12. Their pride will accelerate their collapse. Their pride is the engine driving their own downfall. The same arrogance that convinced them they could take what wasn't theirs, manipulate others, and escape accountability now ensures that every misstep they make is amplified and unavoidable. Pride clouds judgment, inflates confidence, and creates a false sense of invincibility. They believe they are untouchable, that their schemes are clever enough to go unnoticed, and that the rules of consequence somehow don't apply to them. That arrogance, once their shield, is now a spotlight highlighting every flaw in their strategy. Because pride blinds strategy, they consistently underestimate the reality of the situation. They overestimate their influence, misjudge people's reactions, and fail to anticipate the momentum of truth. Every attempt to regain control, every manipulation, and every diversion is executed with the same overconfidence that once fueled their theft. Their actions are predictable because pride limits the ability to think beyond immediate self-interest. In short, their arrogance guarantees that the very tactics they rely on to escape exposure are the ones that accelerate it. Pride also prevents them from recognizing the inevitability of consequences. Where fear might have caused hesitation or caution, arrogance breeds recklessness. They continue to double down on lies, escalate their manipulations, and ignore warnings because they cannot admit weakness. Every miscalculation, every desperate attempt to assert dominance, and every brash move is magnified, not mitigated. Their downfall doesn't require outside interference. Pride is doing the work for you. This arrogance works entirely in your favor. It creates a pattern of overreach, exposure, and error that can be quietly observed and anticipated. They are not just making mistakes. They are making monumental blunders with a sense of entitlement that ensures they are caught in the act. The very energy that once made them bold and dangerous now accelerates their collapse, ensuring that what was stolen returns to its rightful owner. Pride, which once elevated them above caution, now chains them to failure, and nothing they do can undo the momentum they have unleashed. Their collapse is inevitable, self-driven, and spectacular, fueled entirely by the arrogance that convinced them they could outsmart the system. Number 13. Witnesses will become historical proof. The people who once stayed silent, cheered, or even helped them now find themselves unwilling witnesses to the collapse they helped enable. Every action, every complicity, and every attempt to look the other way is now part of a growing record that confirms the truth. Even those who never intended to testify or speak up are now forced to observe as their involvement, whether direct or indirect, becomes evidence in itself. Their silence no longer protects them. It documents the extent of the wrongdoing and highlights the justice that is unfolding. What makes this particularly powerful is that witnesses don't need to act for their presence to matter. Simply observing, remembering, and recounting what they saw is enough to create a permanent record. Every interaction, every conversation, and every moment they ignored or condoned becomes part of the historical proof of your vindication. The narrative they once thought controlled is now reversing, with the evidence of their participation serving as confirmation that the theft and manipulation occurred. What was hidden in plain sight is finally recognized, validated, and preserved by those who were part of the environment. Even casual observers become part of the accountability structure. Their memories, testimonies, and reactions carry weight because the truth has a way of linking all the dots, intentional or not. The network of witnesses, those who once feared repercussions or turned a blind eye, now serve as living archives. They cannot erase what they saw or heard, and in doing so, they unintentionally reinforce your vindication. Their very presence during the unraveling is a testament to the inevitability of justice and the inevitability of the truth emerging. Ultimately, witnesses become more than just spectators. They are evidence. Their participation, silence, or support of the perpetrators now documents the path of wrongdoing and ensures that your restoration is undeniable. The unraveling of the theft, manipulation, and deceit is now historically anchored through these witnesses, creating a permanent record that no manipulation, lie, or intimidation can erase. Every person who observed, tacitly or actively, becomes part of the proof that what was stolen from you will return, and that justice, in every form, cannot be avoided. Number 14. This is more than justice, it's a legacy reset. This is far beyond a simple act of justice. It's a reset of everything that was stolen from you, a reclamation of destiny itself. The inheritance, the legacy, and the opportunities they tried to take from you were never theirs to claim. Their theft disrupted more than material possessions. It disturbed the natural order of what was meant to be yours. The exposure doesn't just return what was taken, it restores the balance that their greed and manipulation tried to erase. Every lie they built, every document they falsified, and every scheme they engineered now collapses under the weight of inevitability, and what returns to you is more than property or wealth. It is the affirmation of your rightful place in life. This legacy reset is transformational. It touches every aspect of what defines your path: authority, influence, recognition, and the affirmation of your purpose. What was taken was never just financial. It was a piece of your identity, your trajectory, and your power to shape the future. When it is restored, it signals to the world and to yourself that what belongs to you cannot be suppressed indefinitely. The universe doesn't simply correct the theft, it reestablishes your role, your influence, and your ability to lead without question. It's a reclamation that resonates far beyond the immediate gains, sending ripples through every connection, every witness, and every system that was manipulated to deny you what was rightfully yours. What makes this reset extraordinary is that it cannot be interrupted. No amount of intimidation, deception, or fear can alter the momentum of what is being restored. The exposure ensures that your inheritance, your legacy, and your destiny are no longer negotiable. They are affirmed publicly, universally, and permanently. What was once stolen is now recognized, respected, and reasserted. In the end, this is more than a correction. It's a statement. It tells the world that theft cannot override destiny, that manipulation cannot outlast truth, and that what belongs to you will always find its way home. The reset doesn't just restore what was taken. It restores the natural order, the rightful balance, and the affirmation that your place, power, and purpose are unshakable. This is the ultimate vindication, a reclamation of what was always meant to be yours, and a declaration that the future belongs to you. The truth has been unleashed, and with it comes a reckoning that no force, fear, or deception can stop. Every lie they told, every scheme they plotted, every ounce of stolen power is collapsing under its own weight. What they thought was hidden, protected, or untouchable is now exposed for the world to see. The whistleblower may have lit the spark, but the fire of justice, destiny, and inevitability is unstoppable. Their panic, guilt, and arrogance only accelerate the process, revealing patterns of deceit, miscalculations, and fractures in the very networks they relied on. Every misstep, every defensive move, every desperate attempt to distract now serves as proof of their undoing. This is not merely restitution, it is a cosmic reset. The inheritance, legacy, and birthright that were stolen from you are returning with authority, clarity, and undeniable confirmation that you were always meant to claim them. Witnesses, whether silent or complicit, are now historical proof of the injustice and the inevitable restoration. What was once theirs to exploit is now undeniably yours, and the world is watching your vindication unfold in real time. Every document, every transaction, every subtle trace of manipulation has become an instrument of your authority, validating your resilience, patience, and rightful position. More than wealth, more than power. This is the restoration of destiny. The balance of life itself is being realigned. What they stole was never theirs to hold, and the universe has ensured that it will return, not just as compensation, but as affirmation of your purpose, your influence, and your unshakable position in the grand scheme of things. Their distractions, threats, and attempts to manipulate cannot stop what is destined. The exposure is both inevitable and extraordinary, and it signals a new chapter where your authority, legacy, and vision are stronger than ever. You have witnessed the collapse of deception and the rise of truth. Let this moment serve as a declaration. No theft can override destiny, no manipulation can silence inevitability, and no power built on greed and arrogance can withstand exposure. What belongs to you is returning, restored fully, with force, clarity, and undeniable authority. Your legacy is reset, your name vindicated, and your rightful place secured. If you feel the weight of this truth and want to follow every moment of this extraordinary journey, subscribe, like, comment, and share, because this is not just a story of justice. It is a lesson in inevitability, destiny, and the unstoppable return of what is yours. If this revelation hit you hard and you want to witness every step of the truth unfolding, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a moment. Hit that like button to show your support, leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences, and share this video with anyone who needs to see the power of justice and destiny in action. Your engagement fuels the exposure of truth, the restoration of what's rightfully yours, and the unstoppable rise of those who refuse to be silenced. Don't just watch. Be part of the movement. God bless you.